You know, sometimes I enjoy saying things that other people are afraid to say.
He is not afraid. He is Bill Simmons of the Bill Simmons Podcast.
He says what he wants.
He is a man of action. We just sit here and hide behind microphones. It's the Bill Simmons Podcast. I'm Chris.
And I'm Matt.
2 podcasts last week, Matt.
Only 2.
The total amount of Bill Simmons podcasting last week was barely over 3 hours, at least on the nominal Bill Simmons podcast.
Yes.
Good week for us.
Yes.
Matt, I don't know why we have a business model that is talking about someone and then we complain when he gives us too much stuff to talk about.
I want to talk about him, Chris, but only the right amount.
That rock is much too large. Perhaps a smaller rock. Matt, are you ready to rock?
Yes.
It's the Bill Simmons Podcast.
Here we go.
On the first podcast of the week, the Cousin Sal podcast, they guessed the lines for approximately 1 hour, 16 minutes, and 59 seconds.
Correct.
1 minute and 20 seconds in.
Dismissed.
This swallow.
Can't wait to see who gets nominated.
At 2 minutes and 22 seconds. An historic moment in Bill Simmons podcast history. Possibly the last time this one Pearl Jam song is used as the intro.
Corduroy. That's the name of the song.
Yeah, it's a good song. You have the corduroy emblem tattooed on your body.
There's no such thing.
At 3:36, there's a discussion about the huge man named Baker from the NFL Hall of Fame, or Pro Football Hall of Fame, whatever it's called, showing up to tell Bill Cowher, live on the air, that Bill Cowher was going to be part of the Hall of Fame. Bill does not get his terminology right.
They induct Coach Cowher into the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, they didn't. They told him he was going to be in the Hall of Fame, but the induction actually takes place in like August. 4 minutes and 17 seconds. See if you can. I would love to hear somebody try to translate this from English to another language. Listen to this.
Not only did he win a Super Bowl, he inspired.
Not only did he didn't win a Super Bowl.
Did he didn't win one, Chris?
He didn't. 5:15. More English, more problems. It sounds like a Biggie song.
It feels like the ultimate Andy Reid game.
I think he's trying to say Ultimelt, which
Well,
is probably
like
a
awesome
delicious
grilled cheese.
Yes. I'm thinking Patty Melt, like
Patty
like a
Melts are
double-decker.
stupid.
You go to hell. At 9:16, there's a phrase that Bill uses. I believe it is a third-generation cliche. That is to say, it's not the original cliche. It's not the modified use of the cliche. It's Bill's own cliche Simmonsism, which he gets wrong. Listen first, and then I'll provide you with my research.
And we're emptying the kitchen sink.
Everything but the kitchen sink, according to knowyourphrase.com, is a phrase whose origins are lost in the mists of time, but possibly between World War I and World War II. Everything but the kitchen sink means you're going to throw every single thing possible you can at a problem. That then evolved into throw the kitchen sink at it, which is the idea that you deploy the everything but the kitchen sink strategy. It has nothing to do with what the kitchen sink fucking contains.
Bill wants to throw the things in the kitchen sink at you.
Right. That's not how it works, because when you're using everything but the kitchen sink, it means you use every single thing possible, even though a kitchen sink is typically not applicable for problem-solving purposes. But it has nothing to do with the fact that you may have dirty dishes or soaking pots, which my family very fond of, or just old bits of orange peel. The contents of the sink are totally inapposite.
Emptying the kitchen sink is also known as doing the dishes.
Yeah, that's good. At 12:41, this Joe Bluth nominee.
I'm on a downward spiral the last couple weeks. I'm just staying away, but
At 13:05, Thing.
and they had a complete meltdown when the Chris Jones thing came out.
At 13:13, Matt, I'm not sure who was the party doing the considering.
I had no idea that was even in consideration that he might get hurt.
The gods.
So they're NFL injury-based decision makers who Bill was not aware. He knew that they were working on various injuries. He did not know that they were working on Kansas City Chiefs defensive lineman, Chris Jones's potential injury, but in fact, that was on their consideration docket. At 13:28, those momentum changes are awfully wiggly.
He really had a grip of the momentum changes. And
Now, first of all, there should be a grip on the momentum changes. But is that a thing you grip? I guess even metaphorically, like he was really certainly aware that there were momentum changes happening. At 14:20, even when Bill is wrong, Matt, Bill is right.
And I will for the rest of my life never forgive myself for talking myself out of them in round 2.
You see, even though he didn't bet on the Titans,
he was mad he didn't.
Yeah, he should have, because he is that smart.
Yep. Chris, at 16 minutes, Bill says that he wonders if Lamar will play in Hawaii in the Pro Bowl.
And Lamar is going to be in a hotel room in Hawaii, potentially.
Chris, do you know where the Pro Bowl is?
God, I'm hoping it's not in Hawaii.
It is not in Hawaii. It has not been in Hawaii for many years now, at least 3 or 4, maybe more. It is in Orlando, which is poor man's Hawaii.
At 17:35, a Joe Bluth nominee.
Where you're just like, oh my God, Reed, he's like a man amongst boys.
At 23:30, this ad botch.
And for a normal.
Didn't sound normal to me. 27:33, it sounds like an 80s song. Smack Plus Thing.
So the Derrick Henry thing.
I'm going to include this.
It's free, folks. Except executive producer Joshua, executive producer Sean, our friends at College Football Brothers Podcast, Scott and Jeff. You too can give us free money by going to patreon.com/bspodpod or giving us free money like our boy David P. via anchor.fm, possibly /bspodpod or something like that.
I was worried you were going to forget David P. for a second.
Never. OG David P. At 29 minutes, Matt, this is what the listeners are clamoring for. A wet swallow.
Chiefs.
Ooh.
Get that back to Capistrano. At 31:29, a snort. At 32:49, Bill is trying to explain gambling. And he's saying for his Titans bet to lose, 2 things had to happen. One that had only ever happened 3 times, and one that had never happened. And then he goes on to say that both were unprecedented.
For the Titans to ruin our teas yesterday, 2 things had to happen that one of them has only happened 4 times in the history of the NFL.
Okay, 4 times. Got it. Keep going.
The other one, the Derrick Henry having the 3rd straight game that he had of 32 plus carries, 180 yards. That's never happened in the history of the NFL.
Okay, so 1 4 times. We've made that clear. And 1 unprecedented.
Yep.
Let's see how he follows through.
So 2 never happened, had to flip us and beat us.
2 never happened, had to flip us and beat us?
At 34:20, Gen.
All of a sudden, we're in the AFC title again against Derrick Henry.
Who were the 2 teams in that Gen?
And
I think he thought in the AFC title game again against. And he just decided to say Gen.
Gain.
At 37:03, laughter.
Deep.
Yeah, is it scarier slowed down?
Of course. Sounds like Jabba the Hutt.
At 38:28, triple studio clunk. I don't understand why this happens.
It's like somebody turned the lights off, then turned them on again, then turned them off again.
At 41:58, thing.
And then Russell Wilson does his Michael Myers thing.
At 43:28, this is not something that I did. This is from the downloaded podcast file that I downloaded from theringer.com. This, Matt, is the actual edit that was available as of yesterday.
Yeah,
that
that
was
pretty
doing
bad.
everything they wanted. You pressure this guy, send it from the other side.
What was taken out? And also, how did they think that was appropriate? I mean, our editing is shit, Matt.
Yeah.
But you know what we say when we hear things like that? Kyle's back. At 45 minutes and 1 second, my mother nods approvingly.
They remind me when they're cooking with gas and Aaron Jones is going and they have the whole thing.
Also, there was a thing, as there was at 48:45.
The whole thing.
50 minutes and 35 seconds. I feel like this has to be based on the phraseology, the parents of more than one Shanahan.
Feature with the Shanahan's parents.
The Shanahan's parents. So all the Shanahans, their parents.
I don't know how that would work. Because Mike Shanahan is Kyle Shanahan's parent, but Mike Shanahan's parent is not Kyle Shanahan's
Maybe
parent.
Kyle Shanahan's parents and Kyle Shanahan's brothers or sisters' parents. Don't worry, Matt. The articles get confusing, as they do less than 2 minutes later at 52:29, where Rodgers becomes the Rodgers.
I thought if you remove the Rodgers and the Green Bay being a kind of a public team, all that stuff.
Aaron and his wife and children.
Please remove the Rodgers. They're becoming obscene. At 52.29, thing.
The Rodgers thing would be worth an extra 2.
At 53.24, if you are not successful or your team doesn't win, but something somehow, no matter how tangentially related to your team, is successful, brag away.
Kyle and I get to brag about it. Yeah, we
No,
believed in
that's
Jimmy
not
G the
gonna
whole
be the
time.
narrative.
Kyle.
That-
Why
Well,
would
Matt,
they get to brag about this? Well, I don't understand. The theory is that because they always liked Jimmy G, that when he goes and wins a Super Bowl somewhere else, they're like, yeah, we were right.
Well, Matt,
'Cause that's dumb.
You make a good point. Totally in keeping with Bill's theory of sports bigamy, which is that you cannot root for more than one professional sports team at a time. But I'm afraid the judge has ruled. Let's hear from Kyle.
Kyle, tell him.
He's right.
Sorry, Matt. Kyle says it works.
He's right.
Well, I can't possibly argue with Kyle.
At 54.38, let's listen, shall we?
Let's take a break.
Matt, do you think the Catholic Church agrees with this
Tread
concept
carefully.
at 55.17?
They have lightning fast withdrawals.
Catholic Church in favor of the rhythm method of birth control. No?
I didn't put it together.
At 55.20, this swallow.
You can have your winnings in your pocket in as little as 24 hours.
Note, that was a swallow in a paid-for ad. He just does not give a shit, FanDuel, or whoever this is, about your content. Not the way the Bill Simmons podcast would. At 59.18, this Joe Blues nominee.
I was never nervous during that game, just in case you
Remember how
ever
fast
wondered.
Terrell Owens looked?
He never even got there, Chris.
That was a bail. He bailed on that comment mid-stutter. Those are my favorite ones. At 1 hour and 17 seconds, thing.
You could parlay the championship thing.
At 1 hour, 2 minutes, and 51
He
seconds.
didn't even need things. He could parlay the championship.
You ever watch that movie with Spicoli and Judge Reinhold, Phoebe Cates, Forrest Whitaker? You know the one I'm talking about? It's from the 80s.
Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
Oh, Matt, I think you said the name wrong.
Well, when they showed those old clips, it looked like the Fast Times at Ridgemont High when it was Forrest Whitaker just...
Oh, the Fast Times
Right.
at Ridgemont High.
Right.
Next,
Now-
Grandma.
Now I know what you're talking about. That's the third unnecessary article in this. Matt, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this confession that Bill makes at 1 hour, 8 minutes, and 20 seconds. This does belong in the Bad Parenting Hall of Fame. Here's the first part.
was playing Monopoly, didn't really want to hang out with us, was like on her phone half the time. And I just flew off the handle.
It is not unusual for a teenager to not want to spend time with her parents or her little brother or all three of them, and it is pretty typical to remain on the phone. Not sure that is really fly off the handle worthy, but it gets worse.
It was like out of a movie. I was so mad at her.
You know how people get so mad in movies.
Yeah. I only watch movies where people are very angry.
Like the Fast Times movie?
Yes.
I was like, you know what? This is bullshit.
Wait a second. So he says this is bullshit to his teenage daughter?
Yes, with his younger than teenage son in the room.
This
But we
sounds
all
like-
know.
Yeah, he's a swear machine. Yeah, this is problem solving at its finest from a parental standpoint. Does it get worse?
You just
so
you're all about
weird.
your phone and your boyfriend, and you're just terrible now. I can't believe how terrible. And I'm just going off on her.
Yeah, so it does get worse, Matt. He calls his teenage daughter terrible.
I wonder what Zoe's going to tell her therapist this week.
At 109.22, more thoughts on parenting.
Nobody's good enough for your
Right.
wife with the son.
Did there need to be an article there, Matt? This is talking about Sal's oldest kid and Sal's oldest kid's relationship with Sal's wife, the kid's mom, the son. Like, he
But
just
even-
forgot the kid's name or something?
Because the alternative, if he took away the article, would have been, no one's good for your wife with son.
Man, you're right. Maybe it's not an article issue, but it is a word choice
It's a
issue.
sentence issue.
At 110.21, this swallow.
The first one was a Michael Jackson poster.
Following up on that concept, Bill is discussing Bill's son's Amazon order. And at first he is surprised and it appears disappointed because it looks like Ben bought a Michael Jackson poster. But then it turns out at 110.35 that everything's okay for this reason.
And it turns out it was Michael Jackson vinyl.
So it's better that he bought a record by a child molester as opposed to a poster?
Well, I think what Bill is trying to say is, if you want to listen to his music, I'm okay with that. But don't you dare hang that molester poster in our house. Also, what are the chances Bill Simmons is a record player?
That's a good point, Matt. Maybe he keeps it by the Peloton. Matt, once more the emphasis fell on the word stuff. Here we go.
We'll be writing about him, all that stuff. He was calling stuff out. We had a lot of Lamar stuff. There was some good stuff on all that stuff and his Amazon stuff last week, gambling stuff to discuss. And don't forget about all the great stuff. I didn't know half of the stuff. My tendency with this stuff,
all the stuff, that Andy Reid stuff.
and he wasn't doing the stuff Mahomes did. And I think all that stuff, Broncos, all that stuff, 10 and all the stuff, the Asuna stuff,
Yep.
cheating
Report, by the
stuff,
way,
the stuff, the other stuff they
fostering.
did with draft picks and all and rookies and all that stuff.
Criticized for the Patriot stuff. You know, the stuff he did for charity.
Seems like that stuff happens more than ever.
We'll be back after this.
It's just a hamburger on bread.
Yeah, so what?
Well, why ain't you eating a regular hamburger?
Because the bun is too tall, and you can't get a good toast on both sides of the bun. It's like, why don't you put a club sandwich on a hamburger bun?
We wouldn't.
Yeah, exactly.
I think you proved my point, Chris.
Listen, all I'm going to go on the record is saying is points were proven today. Points were proven, Matt. We use Anchor to make the Bill Simmons podcast.
We really love it.
It's free.
Costs nothing.
Anchor allows you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. You don't need extra software.
We are idiots, Chris, and we can figure it out.
Once you create the podcast, Anchor will distribute it for you.
It can be heard on Spotify, Apple, all the major podcast players. Not Luminary, though.
Sorry, Luminary. You can even make money.
Your coffers will be full.
Hopefully you have a pretty small coffer. Everything you need to make a podcast in one place. Download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started podcasting right now. Matt, the second and final pod of the week was 1 hour, 47 minutes, and 2 seconds. It included Peter Schrager, Mallory, House, and your favorite Bill Simmons podcast guest, Bill's dad.
Chris, when I was listening to this podcast, I read the title, but it was like, it didn't all come up because it's a really long title. And I did not realize all the guests on this podcast. And then I got to the last 10 minutes and was just so disappointed.
14 seconds in, I think Bill gives short shrift or overlooks his favorite team with this opinion on the Astros.
Now that they are the premier cheaters of the 2010s.
Matt, there's no way that the Astros, with only one single cheating scandal, are the premier cheaters of the 2010s.
Just the Red Sox alone have 2 cheating scandals.
Yes.
And then, of course, the New
Patriots.
England Patriots
Yes.
are a cheating machine.
Now, I wonder if he's thinking that the original Spygate, I think, occurred prior to the 2010s.
Well, yeah.
So maybe that doesn't count.
But
so
that's still
the
2.
Patriots only had 2?
And the Red Sox had 2.
Right.
Astros had 1. That's 4-1.
Yes. Or 2-1 and 2-1.
Yes.
At 101, this swallow.
I thought I knew a lot about Stu Scott. I worked with Stu Scott.
At 115, this swallow.
Reggie Miller, the Pyramid.
At 2 minutes and 3 seconds, Matt, the dawning of a new age for the Bill Simmons podcast. A sad, not as cool, for old white dads, non-rocking age.
First, some new music.
It is Pearl Jam.
What do you think?
It's meh. It's just not Pearl Jam. It doesn't sound like Pearl Jam, but whatever. I'll get used to it, I'm sure.
You're going to get rid of that tattoo?
The corduroy one. It's a pair of pants.
It's a corduroy tattoo that zips when you walk. At 4:58, this swallow.
I'm going to spend the rest of my life
At 5 minutes and 24 seconds, Peter Schrager, Bill Simmons' acolyte.
Peter Schrager, and you're somebody who you were reading me when you were in college, so you remember me beating this into the ground in the early 2000s.
Peter Schrager, remember how great you used to think I was? I'm so great, right?
Yeah. Wow. I don't even think I picked up on that listening to it, but man.
Matt, do you know what a corollary is?
I do.
You want to try defining it?
Not really.
A corollary is a proposition that follows from and is often appended by, or to, one already proved. That means a corollary is dependent on some other concept or idea. Bill does not understand at 6:05.
Do the Titans qualify for the Nobody Believes in Us corollary?
Corollary to what? Nothing. It's
Well, the
a
answer to
principle
Bill's
or a
question
theory.
is no.
Because it's not a thing. Do you adhere to the corollary of gravity? I think. Shit, if you're a real scientist, let us know. We probably put this one up. We are not scientists.
There's no scientists listening.
No. Matt, is it bad parenting at 8:15 when Bill thinks his son has a future because Arthur Smith, whose dad founded and runs FedEx, became an offensive coordinator for the Titans?
Well, Kyle, I have hope for Ben Simmons now.
Wow.
I think my son, maybe he'll have a job.
Bill is basically saying, I'm glad nepotism exists.
So is cousin Kyle. What's even better is nephew Kyle fucking chimes in about the incredibility of Arthur Smith and or Ben Simmons.
Incredible.
Apparently self-awareness runs in both sides of the Simmons family bloodline. At 9:21, Marcus Dupree and this sad transformation.
Marcus Dupree was a classic.
Yes.
We ended up making a 30 for 30 out of him.
First he was a man, then he was a documentary.
They took all his pieces and rebuilt him.
At 11:59, Thing, pause.
And the thing is, you know, I keep hearing about the Chris Jones thing.
First of all, Chris, in the car, he said the thing is, and then I yelled, "What? What is the thing?" And then he described it as a thing.
Chris Jones thing.
Yeah, yes. He defined it by using itself in the definition. He doesn't know what the fucking thing is. Oh, man. At 12:34, laugh through his sinuses.
Fine. You keep your 8 guys in there.
What was it Tennessee said? Moo.
Fine. And then
Maybe Tennessee is personified in like a weird old guy.
it was the Titan, the old-ass Titan, Kronos. At 18:13, Thing.
The Casey thing,
At 18:20, Thing.
I agree with you with the Andy Reid narrative thing.
Oh, God. The Andy Reid narrative. Okay, you were done, Bill. Thing.
Yes, yes. It's like in
Becoming an epidemic.
Live and Let Die, you know, when they say the world in which we live in. And it's like, you don't need to say in. It's a dangling preposition. You've already said in which we live. Although I just did compare Bill Simmons to fucking Sir Paul McCartney. So high praise. At 18:36, who's buying these plays?
And the plays that he can buy them.
The problem is that sometimes Andy Reid, who's a great coach, just runs out of plays. And so Mahomes is like, well, don't worry. I'll go to the Play Store.
The Google Play
Yeah,
Store.
maybe.
Google, give us your money. Matt, if you're following a leader, do you follow leaders into the fire?
If I'm on his team and I'm like, that's my guy, I'm supposed to fall into the fire.
Did he say follow or fall into the fire?
I think he said fall.
Fall into the fire.
But if you followed a leader into the fire, the results would be bad.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I guess maybe
You'd all be on
concept
fire.
is there's a fire and the team has to get into the fire and then get out, like the old Winston Churchill, if you're going through hell, keep going.
Okay.
21:35. When your neck is sore, you take this kind of break
One quick break.
because you have a crick
I
in your
got
neck. 23:05.
Now, if we go to the Green Bay, San Francisco,
At 27:16, it is clear that Bill had no choice but to go into editorialism, per Sal, because there is no fucking shot at him becoming a funeral director.
and like always with the Seahawks, they have to wait until they're basically being buried in these 6-foot coffin and that's been dug out for them. And then all of a sudden, that's when they do the Michael Myers.
So there's 3 things I want to discuss, Matt. The first is all the Seahawks are shorter than 6 feet tall. They're all being buried in a 6-foot coffin. The second thing is, for some reason,
Well, no.
the coffin is made out of dirt or was possibly previously buried because the coffin was dug out for them. And finally, Michael Myers is a fictional serial killer who Bill believes is the best emblem of coming back to life. But I'm not sure if there were coffins involved or what they were dug out of.
No, he fell in the pool, right? I interpreted the 6-foot coffin. There's multiple ways to do this, but you interpreted it as they were standing up in the coffin and that they were all less. I pictured it as a really tall coffin, but they still laid down.
Oh.
Which just had 6-foot walls.
Yeah, I didn't think they were standing up. I just figured they were a person who was shorter than 6 feet.
6 feet. Like, okay, all right, good. But it's because he dug them. That's why I thought it had to be 6 foot down.
Oh, I see. I don't see.
This is so fucking ridiculous.
Is there some scholar out there who's
Also,
like,
I don't think Michael Myers ever died. I think
just
the
appeared that
idea
he
was
died?
he just never dies. Like, because at the end of Halloween, he falls out the window into like this backyard swimming pool
yeah,
area.
I'll take your word for it.
It's not like they take his body and bury him somewhere, and then they're like, okay, we got him, and then he reappears. They look out the window 2 seconds later, and he's got up. The point is that you can't kill him.
Well,
Not that
Matt,
he came back to life.
Possibly the reason they didn't bury him was because they found him and they're like, shit, this guy's 6'2".
we
We don't have any coffins.
We really brought that all
What are we
back
gonna
around.
do?
I like that.
At 29:05, the swallow.
Especially, I think about this a lot with my daughter's soccer career.
At 29:40,
You know, his daughter's soccer career, 14.
have you noticed the repeated use of the phrase high forward?
You know what this is like? This is like club soccer. Fuck, Bill, we don't care.
At 29:40, a Joe Bluth nominee and a discussion of the Patriots, somehow shoehorned into a discussion of not the Patriots.
You know, no, I don't know if you know this, but the Patriots aren't in the playoffs anymore.
At 30 minutes and 7 seconds, something is missing, Matt.
Adams somehow getting open on that first third down that they needed.
I think what he says is Adams somehow getting open on that first down.
Oh, makes sense.
I think what he did was he moved the EN from open or opening
Okay.
to after. So instead of being getting opening on that first down, still doesn't make sense. He says getting open on that first down. So that's the explanation. At 32:05, for the first of at least a couple times, Bill points out that he bet on the San Francisco 49ers to participate in and I think win the Super Bowl. The key issue is when he places that bet. Listen closely.
This is why I bet on them before the Super Bowl. I was like, they have the best team.
This is why I bet on them before the Super Bowl.
Was he trying to say for the Super Bowl?
We'll come back to this. At 33:06, Matt, you pointed this out to me.
So if you had to say one game is close, one game's a blowout, which is usually the case, I don't throw the advanced metrics at me, but that's like perennially the quote unquote stereotype of championship weekend.
All right, Chris. So if you and I were having a discussion about the relative point differentials in championship games, and I were to say to you, usually one game is a blowout and one game isn't, it would not require any analytics
Right.
or heady stats to prove that. It would just be very basic numbers. Bill does not want you to throw the analytics at him. Here's what usually happens. Now, don't check the record and tell me I'm wrong, even though I may be. I'm just telling you, in my head, this is what happened.
At 35:08, Salesforce, now sponsoring Bill Simmons Podcast because his friend is from Salesforce.
I can vouch firsthand that this is a great company because my buddy Bish did really well there.
What does that mean? Did really well there. Does that mean that he went to Salesforce, used Salesforce's services, and then made money? Or does it mean that he was employed by them and they paid him a lot of money? Matt, it's a trick question. The answer is he worked for them because Bill tells us that on a subsequent podcast.
If only we could talk to Bish.
At 35:53, hey, guess who was still right about the Titans even though he didn't bet on them, Matt? Wait, don't guess yet.
I am never going to forgive myself for bailing on the Titans after loving them for 2 straight months. I still don't know what I was thinking.
Ultimate humble brag.
Credit where credit is due,
Yep.
or where he wants it. At 37:39, Revisionist History by Bill Simmons.
This week, we have James Vanderbeek and Ethan Hawke making prominent appearances on Ringer content.
Wait, before you answer, Bill, Matt, my recollection is James Vanderbeek was on a podcast on the Ringer Podcast Network, and Ethan Hawke was referenced by Peter Schrager, who was a guest, and Peter Schrager said, yeah, I bumped into Ethan Hawke at a coffee shop, and he said he thought it was Andy Reid's year.
Yeah.
Ethan Hawke with the greatest football
Oh my
take
God,
I've
what a
ever
name
heard.
drop.
Ethan Hawke never spoke. The sound of Ethan Hawke's voice was never heard, and he never appeared on any media from The Ringer or Bill Simmons. Well, I'm sure Bill will take every opportunity to clear this up because Ethan Hawke was not a guest on anything
No.
Ringer, right?
No.
Bill, make sure you get the house straightened out.
Yeah, basically. That's how it played out.
Oh! Basically, the ultimate acknowledge that it's not really true.
At 37:50, Bill Simmons calls the Bill Simmons Podcast this, and then swallows.
We had our first cheating scandal on the BS pod.
Wait,
Sal,
who cheated?
I do not want House to be on the Sunday Night Pod because of what Bill threatens House will do.
yeah, you're going to be on the Sunday night pod, either licking our wounds or celebrating these incredible bets.
If House showed up to celebrate incredible bets,
Great.
that would be one thing.
Yeah.
But I do not want a podcast that involves anyone licking someone else's wounds. It just sounds gross.
Both their wounds.
Potentially Sal's wounds.
They would probably just sound like the Swallows.
Maybe that's just the sound of wound licking. You're right. At 41:07, Bill does not understand that a 20-point loss is not close.
We almost lost both sides of that.
Nope. They definitely lost the Ravens side, and the Chiefs side they won by about 20. That's not almost. Now, remember, Matt, about 15 minutes in Bill Simmons' podcast time ago, I talked about how Bill picked the Niners to win the Super Bowl before the Super Bowl.
Before the Super Bowl.
He comes back to that at 46:50. Listen again.
I picked the Niners to win the Super Bowl right before the Super Bowl and wagered on it.
He says right before the Super Bowl. He doesn't say I picked the Niners for the Super Bowl. He said I picked the Niners to win the Super Bowl right before the Super Bowl.
Right before the Super Bowl.
I think he means season, but I don't know how you mix these two concepts up.
No, I don't think he did pick him before. I think before the playoffs he picked him. Because before the season, nobody expected there's no way that Bill was like the 49ers, that's the team. I think going into the playoffs, because I kind of remember him saying, they have the best roster talent, they have the, anything could happen, but that's the best team. That's what I think he's trying to say. Chris, we'll be back right after this.
Wait, Matt, do an ad read for Google.
An ad read?
Yes.
All right.
Google, the second best search engine for porn.
You didn't even let me try. Do the ad read. Half a second. No, wait.
Well, the thing is, all right, you got one? You got one lined up?
Wait, which one's better? Bing? Bing is better for
Bing,
porn.
way better for porn search
All right.
engines.
Google, where you will get the search result you want, but they will have all your data.
Oh, yeah. Google, like a noose around your brain. Is that good? It. We're going to probably only use the first one I did because I always think my stuff is the best. And then I listen to it again. I'm like, oh, God, if this fucking guy would shut up. I always say the funniest parts are Matt going off the rails and Matt talking shit to me. And then I never stop talking. Matt, welcome to the second half of the second pod of Bill Simmons Podcast from last week. At 46:55, this swallow.
I tried to get cute last week.
At 47:02, this swallow.
Or 4, whatever. That was dumb.
At 49:26, how well do you want to beat the 49ers?
I think they'd have to play 4 quarters to beat the Niners really well.
What if they just beat them like averagely? At 52:17, things.
Well, of course not. We just picked the other 2 things.
At 56 minutes, I think doubt is inherent in this comment.
When we're together, we usually win. I just want to point that out.
I want to point that
Is that
out.
a Freudian thing where he just says, we always win when we're together, but he knows. Not true. At 58:25, contributor Nick points out that cousin Kyle is very explosively excited about the prospect of Korean food.
Bringing food from Koreatown for both games.
Oh. Imagine if he was mic'd when he did that.
At 58:58, contributor Nick also pointed this out, Raider.
They make that little white Raider.
It's like that great NFL Films poem, The Autumn Wind is a Reader, pillaging just for fun. Bill, have you given yourself credit in the last 20 minutes or so? I think at 103:54, it's time.
I'd like to think I helped contribute to it.
Doesn't matter what it is, Matt. Of course he fucking thinks that way.
What is it? World peace? I'd like to think I contributed to
Curing
it.
cancer? Yeah, I'm in for that. Put my name on the back of that too. At 107:39, Bill's mostly irritated about food delivery services because they don't give him credit.
They should do a better job with when you're gifting other people food.
Yeah.
It should be more obvious than just this food randomly gets delivered to your door, and unless the other person tells you, you don't know where it came from.
What do you want, a fucking card?
I think he does. This free soup provided by Bill. At 109:54, Bill learned how to say the word amok.
He was still running amok.
Great job by you, Bill. I wrote at 110:46, semi-Job.
I mean,
They hired A-Rod. Who's a bigger cheater than him? The guy's a serial liar and cheater.
At 112:24, Bill almost gets the K.
Another asterisk.
Asterisks. At 112:36, it's like he's trying to get somewhere but never gets there.
Basically, the only team I have that nobody who's giving me shit can make fun of.
Nobody's giving me shit can make fun of. Don't know.
If he had used the word who at some point, that nobody who is giving me shit can make fun of, at 112:44, I'd like to buy a thee.
So I really hope that the KG doesn't have some PED scandal.
How do you get that as the KG? Was he thinking he was going to say the KG thing? At 114:21, Bill again tries to shove the title of greatest villain away from Boston.
The biggest villain we have.
False. At 117:20, I can only imagine that these pauses are as a result of Mallory and Bill locking eyes across the podcast table.
push them to the point where eventually they got caught. The Kershaw thing,
You feel bad for him.
it's crushing.
Why did they cut this out?
Wait, Matt, you mean we can remove those horribly awkward pauses?
Terrible.
What was going on there? Bill loves the idea of helping sell somebody as a wrestling partner, and he's just like, I'm guessing silently nodding with that vacant look on his face. At 121:54, a V-sounding gulp.
Flesh-colored confetti.
He looked like he was in The Irishman with a wire on.
Just in case you wondered, the Irishman. It was definitely a V sound. Contributor Nick at 123:15 points out, Bill says scheme and knows he says scheme wrong.
Let's say we had this whole scheme. Can't say scheme. Scheme.
I'd like to hear what that guy puts on a bagel. Possibly a schmear. At 138:11, Matt, your favorite all-time Bill Simmons podcast guest, Old Man Dad.
What was the point of this? It's not even like they had anything interesting to talk about.
Plus, he's already been going for an hour and 38 in an old man move. His phone rings.
Hernandez.
Yeah, but I would hope not.
Matt, we're not going to make fun of the fact that his dogs were barking.
You're right. Or
After
children were crying.
our podcast from last week. The phone ringing, that's mockable. But any other background sounds, no. At 138.19, this snort.
Yeah, because he
At 144.04, double swallow.
And didn't. And then they got a future.
Matt, what do you call a virus that is both like a deadly shitting blood kind of virus, but also causes embolisms?
I have no idea.
I think Bill's dad knows.
I had the visit to Cuba Ebola virus.
You think that sounds tasty?
Delicious.
Matt, here are all the things Bill and his guests found delicious or otherwise made weird sounds about last week.
So we're getting
Duh. And then just whatever.
and then
And that's the asterisk supporting folk.
About the Red
Finally, Matt discussing Bill's gambling prowess in $1 Million Bets. Gambling correspondent contributor Nick points out that Bill wagered $1.1 million in $1 Million Bets. Matt, if I were a betting man, I'd say the Bill Simmons podcast will be back anywhere between the next 3 and 15 days.
I agree. Odds even on that.
This has been the Bill Simmons podcast. I'm Chris.
And I'm Matt.
Did I tell you the other day I was making a bologna sandwich for my kid for lunch in the morning? And she
No, but I'm
said-
interested in the bologna.
And it was Lebanon bologna.
Oh.
And she said,
The
"Is
sweet
that
kind or the tangy
yeah,
kind?
of course, it's for a kid." She said, "Are you making Lebanon bologna?" And I said, "Yeah." And she said, "Dad, I'm a vegetarian." So I made her a jelly sandwich.
Which kid? The older one?
Yeah.
Is she a vegetarian now?
Yeah, that's what she says. Except
Well,
for when I got
is it
home.
ongoing?
I got home and my wife was like, "I left McDonald's fries for you in the microwave." Because that's the best place to insulate fries, I guess. And my kid gets home, and I go, "Oh, what'd you have for dinner?" "Cheeseburger." I was like, "That's made out of meat."
In fairness, Chris, it's unlikely that those McDonald's cheeseburgers are meat.
Well, not 100%. Isn't it mostly like just meat spin-off?
Yeah.
It's like basically,
I really
if you
like-
fell off a bike while riding down a driveway and you skinned your knee, if they took everything that was left on the driveway and made it into a burger.
I really like that your wife just left it in the microwave.
No, she told me. She's like, "I left fries in the microwave for you."
Yeah, but why would you leave them there? That's the point I'm making.
The insulating qualities of a microwave.
Like, the idea was, I got these fries. They're hot.
Yeah.
I'll leave them in here, and because they'll cool quicker?
Maybe she
Or
was-
was the idea like it was good for you because you wouldn't have to come home, put them in, you could just hit the button.
All that fucking effort of picking the fries up, opening the microwave door, closing the door with the fries inside, and pushing the buttons was reduced to pushing the buttons, which I didn't do.
Did you eat the fries?
I just had a few. This is on Deadspin. I saw an article, I think. Deadspin, rest in peace. I really miss Deadspin. Anyway, the article said the optimal time for consumption of McDonald's fries is within 19 minutes of cooking.
Yeah, well, I'm not saying they're great. Not bad. Like, bad fries are still good.
I don't know.
It's like
man.
pizza.
I'm picky about fries. I'm not picky about pizza.